So now we get to turn to our next panel discussion and hear from waste warriors to talk about solutions that are helping us tackle food waste. So we're joined by my good friend Sam Kass, an investor and strategist for healthier, climate-smart food. Hello. So nice to see you. Priyanka Naik, a celebrity chef and cookbook author. Give her a round of applause. Give Sam a round of applause, too. Ivens-Brown, the Chief Culinary Officer for Compass Group. Round of applause. Robert Lee, the CEO of Rescuing Leftover Cuisine. Round of applause. And we have Harry Tannenbaum, the co-founder and president of Mill. Round of applause for them all. Woo. This is a really good panel, and we have a lot to get through with all of you. So, Chef Priyanka, I'm going to start with you. You have a new cookbook that reflects a lot of the values that we've been talking about today, and I'm wondering if you can tell us about the book sort of briefly, but I know it's very close to your heart.
Sure. I just want to say, did everyone miss the Greene memo, guys? This is a Stop Food Waste event. But anyway, no, thank you for having me, as always. Yes, my book is called The Modern Tiffin. So it's a direct reflection of what I care about mostly, which is cooking really good food and making vegetables the star of the plate. It's a completely vegan cookbook. And it also ties in to my culture. I'm first generation Indian American. I'm born and raised on the forgotten borough of Staten Island. So there really weren't a lot of people like me on the borough. So food was a really integral part of our life. And we had fresh cooked meals. We were fortunate enough to have those 3 times a day. And a lot of the emphasis on good food and not wasting and taking my lunch every day to school, all of that has been packaged into this book. And it's called The Modern Tiffin because a tiffin is a carrying vessel for food, which is very popular in India. And that's how I grew up here. And so a lot of the tips and tricks in the book, aside from making vegetables the star of the plate, is also how to use all of the produce, how to repurpose leftovers, and how to really just maximize all of your groceries so we can stop wasting food and save our money.
And when you're maximizing groceries, you're maximizing flavor and taste and all of those other things. And I wonder, is your family shocked by the amount of waste that happens in this country?
Yeah, I think they're pretty disgusted. I mean, just bluntly put, sorry. But I think, and I could say this probably for most immigrant families, like I wasn't allowed to get up from the table until I finished all of my food. And it's funny that I'm a chef now because I actually gave a lot of trouble eating. But my mom would be like, I put a very small portion of food on your plate, you have to eat it before you get up from here. And I don't care. And so I was just used to growing up with having respect for food and also saving plastic bags from when we, come home from the grocery store and just repurposing jars. And I was joking with this group when we were prepping for this call, I don't think you'll walk into an Indian household or South Asian household and not see a Tostitos jar that doesn't have salsa in it anymore. It has 5 different spices that we use on a daily basis. So I think for me, repurposing extends not only from food, but to anything that we can repurpose in the house. And it's just we were teased about it growing up by other kids, but now it's a way of life and people are looking to those values to make a change now, which I think is very important.
And a lot of that comes up in your book, and it's very important for all of us to understand that. So we have some books that we're going to give away, and I need you all to sort of bear with me and check under your seats because there's some vegetable stickers. And anyone who has those vegetable stickers is going to get a free book.
You get a free card.
Raise your hand. So there's one over there, there's one over here, and there's one there. So there's your books. Give these winners a round of applause for their books.
God knows what they're going to find on it.
Yeah.
And thank you, Chef. Thank you so much.
Sam is upset. He didn't get a sticker.
I got a book for you, Sam.
Where's my sticker?
I got you a book.
I'm with Sam. I think it's unfair that we're up here when that happened.
Don't worry, we've got you.
I want a sticker.
Okay, Harry, when we last spoke, you mentioned... Everyone calm down.
People love free stuff.
Harry, when we last spoke, you mentioned that you're... All right. We mentioned that you're seeing some exciting progress in how eaters are managing their waste. I'm hoping you can talk about that because they're not just better at managing their waste, they're also starting to waste less.
Yeah. So Harry, founder at Mill, we make a machine that eats everything that you don't eat and overnight grinds it up and takes the water out of the material, which turns it into something that kind of looks like coffee grounds and smells like spices and is really small. And the thing that drives us is we fundamentally think about food waste as a behavior change problem. It's not like anyone's out there thinking food waste is a good thing, but the big barriers are, one, it's not always easy to do the right thing, and two, this isn't something that's often easy to measure. And things that aren't measured don't move. So we've now got tens of thousands of mills out in the world. We have millions of days of observed data, which is the largest data set ever created on this kind of thing, and we're seeing some really crazy stuff. So the first thing we're seeing is that a majority of people, after they have a mill, which I'm pretty sensitive, mills are sensitive as well, to like 15 grams of additions, like 3 blueberries. The majority of people are surprised that they waste more food than they thought they did previously. So one, there's an awareness. People say, oh, I know food waste is a thing, but I'm not sure it's me. We can flip the switch on that. Second, it can create a new ritual and be a behavior that is staying. We see about a pound a day per household in a residential setting eaten by each mill. And then third, what we see is it's actually changing shopping and cooking behaviors. So this is around over 7.5 million days worth of data, but we see usage stay consistent, but over time around a 20% decrease in the food waste generated inside a home. And when we do further study on this, folks say they're shopping differently and they're cooking differently, and the reason is because of measurement. And I think, this problem is so thorny because it's tractable, but it's really a kitchen problem. It's very tricky to solve this problem at the curb when the decision to separate food or how you cook or how you shop is really happening inside the kitchen. And we're finding that it's movable and it can change. And when we think about the average household wasting $3,000 worth of food a year per refed, decreasing that by 10 or 20% is real money in pocketbooks. Yeah, it's exciting.
It is exciting. Round of applause.
And
If you all look under your seat, you're going to end up.
and for some of you that are sitting very high, there's a mill under there. No, and I think the last thing I'll say is, I think the craziest thing about this is, like, you think about how long it takes food to turn into food waste. And like, you're sitting at a table, you're eating food, it's literally something you're putting into your mouth, and then you put it in the sink, and in a millisecond, it turns into something that people don't want to touch. And I think what's happening is we're interrupting that cycle, where the food is becoming not waste, but it's staying a resource. And folks are protective of the grounds that they make. And when you value something as a resource, you treat it differently and you change your behavior. Okay, I'm stopping.
No, that ritual I think is so important because it does turn into valuing something that wasn't valued before, and I think that's so important. Thank you for that. Chef Chris, I'd love to turn to you, and Harry's been talking about the solutions that he's working on, but how do we implement solutions in kitchens that don't put a huge burden on chefs that are already doing so much, but make it easy for the hospitality industry to be a part of the solution?
I think, hi everyone, by the way. I think coming from Europe as well, I go through the same things as you. Had to eat everything on your plate. My mother had the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, and then she would shop every day, buy what she needed, and then cook us food, and we would eat it all. But on a much bigger scale now, I think I have 50,000 chefs in the US, 200,000 chefs globally. Being the largest food service company, we have a great responsibility here. So I'm so glad that we're part of this programming. So it's a level of discipline. I truly believe this. And at the end of the day, I look at all of you in this room. You're all disciplined. You're in this room today at 6:40 in the evening, being here with us, discussing this. For all of our chefs, and whether you go back to, I trained with Albert Roux in London, but whether it's Thomas Keller, Jean-Louis Paladin, some of the best chefs in the world, they all follow recipes. They follow recipes, they manage their production and ordering systems and how much they're buying and how much they're selling. I remember when I was training in Michelin-star restaurants in London, my chef would go around, tip out the trash cans, go around, look, if there's some tomato, because it was his money. So you can do that at home as well. That's the little things you could do at home. But for us, it's implementing and making it easy for our chefs and cooks. here's the recipes. If you want something you don't have it, let's create a recipe. If we need something for cross-utilization of product, let's find a recipe. Let's then give you the production records to deliver this and your paths. What I'm seeing also is more cooking a la minute, so to order, rather than just cooking masses of food and putting it out. Doing events where you're cooking to order. So you can give them the tools on this side, but on the other side, then it gives them more time to, deliver on the backside. But, and a tip for me that I try to do that you could take home to yourself is dehydration. So I love dehydrating things, and it's something that you could do at home. If you have ever got grapes that are starting to get a little wrinkly, dehydrate them. You can buy something from Target, and you'll have the best, juiciest, delicious sultanis you're ever going to eat. Olives, orange peel, beet, carrot, just simple things you could do. We do that on a much larger scale as well. It's all scalable, but it comes down to discipline. I truly believe that, because saving food waste and reducing food waste and measuring our food waste to reduce it, as we do as an organization, I'm telling you, at the highest level in the UK, from Compass Group standpoint, it's top of the list. So to do this globally, so but it has to be disciplined. You want to have to do it, but it's relatively easy if you put your mind to it.
I'm hearing discipline, I'm hearing ritual. You talked about dehydration, right? And I think that's a really great solution. Can you talk about freezing food? Because I think that's I know that for chefs, dehydration, they have limited space in kitchens, but for a lot of us, freezing food is the best option.
I think that there's both sides of that. I mean, dehydration is about, the first thing that goes off in anything is the water. So taking that water out, then drying it, putting it in spice jars and cupboards and freezing that, so whether it's herbs. But then from a freezing standpoint, you're freezing the water that's in it. So both the same. You can buy freeze dryers, small household freeze dryers, dehydrators. It's the reverse process that you can do at home. So freezing and pickling and brining, as well as another way.
All exciting things, yeah.
It's all fun stuff that you can have fun doing at home. I do that with the kids at home as well, and they have a blast, but it's cross-utilizing all your ingredients. But it comes back to wanting to do it. And it takes a little bit of time. I mean, in all fairness, you have to take a little bit of effort. But as I said, you all are here. That shows effort.
And doing it with kids is so important,
It's so
teaching
much
them from
fun,
an early age.
Because they're the future,
Yeah, absolutely. Robert, if I can turn to you, we talked a little bit about the value of food before and how, that this issue of food waste comes down to how we really, think about food, how we value it and all that went into it. How can we make food rescue the standard so that we honor the value of that food?
Yeah, my name is Robert Lee, co-founder of Rescuing La Cuisine, and truly, when we started in 2013, we started with a free model. We started just rescuing food. Places like Compass have been incredible partners, and we realized that people weren't really seeing the value of the food, as Harry mentioned. And I think that somewhere along the line, we started to see if we could actually see if people see the value by charging. And as a nonprofit, lots of different organizations like museums charge admission to enter, and obviously NYU and different colleges charge tuition and things like that. And so we started charging for food rescue services as a nonprofit 501c3. And we started seeing that food donor partners would actually see the value by seeing it either coming out of their marketing budget or out of their sanitation cleaning department or different types of budgets, but also seeing the enhanced tax deductions and reducing their food disposal costs. And so we see this. I think it may be also just because I also started, working at JP Morgan, and I quit my job to do this full time. But I truly do think that the business model around making food rescue the universal standard is super important. It's something that I kind of liken it to like the cooking oil piece as well, where it used to be just considered trash, and now it's a commodity, right? And people restaurants can actually sell their cooking oil, right? And think the food waste angle can also be thought of as something that's valuable, just like Harry mentioned. So we think that that's part of the future.
I think it's so interesting that you come from that finance side and the JP Morgan side. Do you think that it's valuable to have more people in this space and preventing food loss and waste that come from those different backgrounds?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole issue of food waste and wasted food in general is just such a huge, multifaceted issue. That I think that there needs to be a lot of different types of solutions targeting different parts of the supply chain. And the more different types of folks come at it with different approaches and ideas, I think the better.
Yeah, absolutely. That cross-sectoral collaboration is
Absolutely.
really needed. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, Sam Kass, my friend. We've been talking about this issue for a long time, me and you. And the cultural shifts that are needed came up a little bit earlier. And I know you have some very definitive opinions about what it's going to take, and how. Maybe I can ask you how far you think we've come, and how far we need to go, and what kind of investment is needed.
Yeah, I think last year I opened this by saying I'm tired of talking about food waste. I have nothing else to say about it. So now that I'm here
See ya.
the following year, I don't. I really don't know.
worked.
Yeah, I really don't know what to say now. First of all, before I answer that, I just want to give some real credit to Chef Chris and to Amy Keister here, who you heard from, and the Compass organization. For sticking with this issue, actually when it sort of like was super hot and it's easy to go on to the next and the next, but here we are yet again, and there's no company on the planet that I know of that has made more progress on this issue than Compass, and it showed a model and had an impact, as good a success story as I've seen literally in every corner of this ecosystem that I've been working on. And so I think we owe them a huge round of applause for their leadership. Look, I will say, just sitting here listening to this, I mean, I feel like we're making some real progress, maybe even more than I've taken a minute to realize. I think the awareness is there. There's got to be somebody out there who thinks food waste is a good thing, but generally I think we've reached a consensus.
Pretty
I do feel
apolitical.
like I'm living in the upside down on so many levels right now. So I'm sure it's out there. And I think the hard part has been the behavior side of it. And how do you, disrupt people's habits and perceptions on what's okay and what's not okay. And in the end, it's been a very interesting experience just for myself. I mean, I've been working on this issue now for, I don't even know, God knows how long, over a decade. And yet I still waste plenty of food. And I have this like crazy emotional, like internal turmoil with myself, but I forgot to cook the thing, or I made too
Same.
much and then I went out, so it's hard, even for those of us who really care about it. And I think tools like you've developed are a big deal. Policies, measurement. I mean, it all started with measurement for you too, Chris, right? Like that's how it really started. When you start to measure, you're like, oh shit, like that's crazy. And when you have that, you have the ability to start making some different choices. So I think we're bit by bit, year over year, bringing solutions to bear that are allowing different parts of the value chain. The hardest part being consumer, which until recently had really not been touched by anybody because it was really hard to make it easier for people to do a better job. And now we have some solutions. So, I cracked on you about the price of it, and you're telling me it's coming down. So as these tools become more affordable for people, I think that these kind of solutions becomes more accessible. So, I mean, on this issue, it's about staying the course
Right.
and continuing to work and chip away. And year over year, I think we can find ourselves in an increasingly better spot, because unlike all the other issues we could be up here talking about, there's an alignment. Like everybody wins when you reduce food waste. It just checks every box. And so this is if we can't make progress on this one, it's a wrap. I mean, it's like we don't stand a chance. So.
Yeah, and on that point, you mentioned being in the upside down right now, and I think a lot of us in this room probably feel like that we're, things are not as we would like them to be. And I wonder if we experience an economic downturn, which it looks like we may, do you think that will propel this issue even further? And, not just on the behavior side or the retail side, but also on the policy side.
I mean, now you're really opening up a whole can of worms.
That's why you're here, my friend.
Yeah. I mean, if we really want to get into it, we can. I'll try to not fully get into it. I mean, if we enter a self-induced recession of pretty large proportions, I mean, I think actually the real problem is going to be food insecurity and more people going hungry, particularly kids. And so maybe there's some like secondary benefit around food waste, but that will be far, far, overwhelmed by, people who are barely making it right now, which is a huge percentage of Americans now, in real crisis. And when you couple that with the cutbacks to every social program you can imagine right now, attacks on SNAP and WIC and school meals and the rest, then you're talking about really serious situations for people across the board in ways that we just haven't seen in modern times.
Right, right.
And the contradictions about what's being said and then what's being done are just overwhelming. And so, I hope that, the stock market is signaling to them warning and they change course.
Yeah.
Obviously, God knows what happens day to day. I don't think they have really much idea either. And so we'll see. But I mean, these are millions of people's lives that are going to be deeply impacted, particularly kids and the most vulnerable amongst us, who will be the ones that bear the brunt of this. So it's hard to state the scope and scale of pain and suffering that we're right on the edge of right now.
So on that point, where do investors come in? How can they sort of counteract some of what might happen at the federal level?
I wish, as an investor, I knew. I mean, it's a look. If you're investing in health and climate change sustainability, it's not like it was going gangbusters to begin with. This is hard. We're trying to make a large transition of the biggest human system on planet Earth, right? How we feed ourselves, and there comes at a real cost. It will cost society money to change from the current way we're doing it to a much more regenerative, sustainable, and healthy way of feeding ourselves. And figuring out who's going to bear it and how we're going to navigate it and how we're going to build the companies of the future that are going to be able to solve some of these big problems is really hard to do in good times with administrations that are pushing forward and funding things and de-risking things. And now you have, efforts at every single level to not just hit pause, but to roll back, undermine, and then attack. So for a lot of big companies, climate's becoming a risk, right? It's a risk to talk about it. And I think all the big players, and again, kudos to Compass and the other ones who are just staying the course.
Right.
But not everybody's staying the course, that's for sure. And navigating that as you're trying to build these young companies who need capital and need scale and need to work with these big companies to try to actually get their solutions or technology in the market. It's tough. So investors obviously have a role to play. But, there's a few of us that are truly mission driven. Most investors, aren't. They're just there for return. And if you can get the solutions that can get the return, that's the panacea, right? That's when there's a transformation of our economy. And we are making progress in that direction. These headwinds are going to put us back. And the thing that, unlike a lot of the other policies that I find just abhorrent, that what's different about climate is that we don't have 4 years to make up for that time. We're already out of time. So you can rebuild a lot of things. There's pain that's going to happen along the way. You can rebuild them in 4 years. We don't have 4 years to lose.
Yeah.
And that's the part that, deep, truly actually keeps me up at night, because it's hard to see how we make up for these next 4 years of damage.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's why it's important that we have these chefs and these innovators on this panel. So I'm sort of, in these final couple of minutes, I want to ask about, for chefs Chris and Priyanka, reducing food waste gives chefs a lot of creativity and sort of forces that innovation. Do you both want to talk about that?
Ladies first.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that is literally my whole platform, my whole job that I made for myself, which is kind of I worked in tech before. I had a whole other life before this. I was a chef on the side. Yeah, I was doing too much, and then Elon laid me off, so then I'm here. Yay. But I think that I think.
Well, that's loaded right there.
That's a whole other panel. No, but I do think that this is where I'm very fortunate to come from the culture that I do, and I say this a lot, but many of the creative moments and stuff that I have, a lot of it isn't from me originally, right? Like I'm not really reinventing the wheel. I come from a very ancient culture that has been cooking, doing Ayurvedic cooking and using natural resources to make really creative dishes. So one of my most popular recipes on TV and online is making a pickle out of watermelon rinds. And that is not, I can't even take credit for that recipe, you know? That's something that my family has been doing for generations. I mean, mine just may be the best, but like, it's not like, but I do think, no, but I do think, to answer your question, yes. Like, I think it's a lot of fun to be like, hey, what can I do with these carrot tops instead of throwing them into my mill, which, by the way, I have a mill and it's amazing. But I think it's really fun to think about creative ways to use all of the produce, to repurpose leftovers, to, you know, rehydrate stale bread and give it a new life. You know, it's like thinking about the food like it's Hindu and we're reincarnating it.
Yeah.
So
You're going forward by going back. I love it. Chef Chris, very quickly, how does this force
I
you
want
to
to
be
just
creative?
add on to something Sam said. And you talk about big companies, but it's part of our culture. When it's part of our culture and it's important to our shareholders, our clients, us, me, our board, our people, it's important and it'll continue. To me, Stop Food Waste Day should be every day. And that's what we do and beat the drum every single day. And we have amazing chefs to be creative, like the pickle brine watermelon seeds for using pineapple's heads and pineapple peel and all kinds of different things. But we have chefs to create all these wonderful things. But you got to create a recipe, man. You got to capture that and save it and then share it. That's the most important thing. So, but just throwing stuff in a pot doesn't always work. But try and create some kind of stability around it.
Yeah, and you're right. Share it. Chefs are the
Share
greatest
it.
influencers of all time. Harry and Robert, you are both working on solutions that make it easy, design solutions that make it easy to prevent food waste. Can you talk about why that design is so important for behavior change? You have 1 minute and 30 seconds. Robert, you're gonna go? Go.
Okay. Look, it's a balance. You need it to be something you want to do, not that you feel like you should do. So there's all sorts of stuff we do. The way your AirPods case clicks shut, you want that satisfaction. You want that frictionless. I'm a fundamentally lazy person. For me to change my behavior, there can't be too much in the way. On the other side of that, and that behavior change can unlock economics. On the other side of it, I think it's about community. And for those of the folks in this room that are New Yorkers, I think about local organizations like Earth Matter, BK Rot, Grow NYC, LES Ecology Center. Like, you all have the crown jewels of community composting in this community, and that is how connectivity to these rituals and these changes in behavior have staying power. So we can come at it both ways. You know, you can change the economics by changing behavior. Organizations, large global organizations, get excited about that because it's a win-win, and then the community is really the thing that sustains it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's really just about changing habits. And so to make it super easy and really get into the habit loop and change those, recurring things that they do all the time is going to be key. So making it as easy as possible is important.
Absolutely. What a great point to end on. Please give these panelists a round of applause. Thank you for all the work that you all do. I'm very grateful. Thank you.